but then used for far more.
London's congestion charge system has 700 cameras which use number plate recognition. It is designed to charge people who drive into the centre of town during peak times. But, in an example of function creep, the police want to link these existing cameras with the police national computer. And it isn't just London. A reported 3,000 cameras are currently being installed in a nationwide rollout of number plate recognition systems. And they won't just be monitoring criminals. The system will log the time, date and location of every car which passes its cameras. A national computer centre will scan up to 35 million number plates every day and keep the information for 2 years. And the police want to extend that to 5.
One of the really astonishing things is that despite the serious implications for privacy and individual liberty, these measures were never debated in Parliament.
We were waiting for a response to our request for CCTV footage. But I also want to know more about the cameras used in London for the congestion charge.
I've got 2 more requests that should be coming through at the end of this week. The one about the congestion charge cameras.
I'm very interested in that.
Yeah,
These are the cameras which, when the congestion charge is not in operation, they're still filming and collecting your number plate. Why are they doing that?
I have no idea. I've asked them for the hours of operation, and then I've asked if these are operating out of the congestion charge time period. Why? What's the policy on why they're running? And what's done with that data as well?
Yeah.
What's the purpose of collecting that data?
So we're checked on the roads and watched on the streets. What about the tube? Transport for London has been very active in promoting Oyster cards. And why not? They're convenient, easy to use, and if you have one, you get a 50% discount.
Or is it the case that you get penalised if you don't have one? You may not know this, but having an Oyster card gives London Transport a complete record of every single journey you make.
Every trip you've taken in the last 8 weeks has been recorded in a database. The time, the start and finish points, all linked directly to your name and address. So now, there can be a record of your movements as you walk, drive, and travel on the tube. Whatever next?
Please look into the mirror. Please move back a little.
From 2009, we will need to have our biometric data recorded if we want one of the Prime Minister's ID cards. He says they will be key in fighting everything from terrorism to illegal immigration.
Please look into the mirror. Please look into the mirror.
The government is planning to spend at least £5.4 billion on the most comprehensive database of personal information ever created by a government, the National Identity Register. To get a card, you will need to submit 49 pieces of personal information, including biometric data like fingerprints, 3D facial recognition, and even iris scans. The cards are voluntary at the moment, but eventually you're going to need a new passport, and that's when the system becomes coercive. To get one, you will have to provide the same 49 pieces of personal data for the National Register, or you're going nowhere. I think it won't be long before shops, bars and offices think they're the best way to establish proof of identity.
I don't mind identifying myself with a passport or a driving license or a simple plastic identifier like this. What I do mind is giving 49 pieces of information about myself to the National Identity Register.
And this database isn't passive. Every time your card is swiped on the terminal linked to the NIR, it will register the details of where it was used. In effect, the database will start tracking your life. And might a future government, under pressure to do something about terrorism, crime or antisocial behaviour, start marking the cards of people they suspect a kind of electronic black mark. But the government is not stopping with every adult in the United Kingdom. At a cost of over £200 million, it intends to create a database containing the personal details of Britain's 11 million children. Up to 400,000 public sector workers will be able to access personal information about your child. The government claims it will keep our children safe and secure. How is it then that top politicians and celebrities will be allowed to keep their children's names off the database for security reasons? We have a legal right to see our own personal data, but how easy is it to actually do this in practice? Heather has received some early results, and interestingly, the House of Commons had sent us the tapes. So that's a pretty impressive response.
I've never really known anybody to get their own footage. Now, maybe that's because there's going to be a camera crew setting up and they can see that, but nevertheless, yeah, they did deliver the goods on that one.
Yes. But we also tried the Ministry of Defence and the Football Association. Both of these did not provide us with any footage.
So the other big thing that came through was about Oyster cards.
Yes.
What I thought was most interesting about this, again, is how the police are starting to use the Oyster card database as their new toy. So from August 2004 to March 2006, there was 426 requests by the police to search the database. So that's almost a year and a half, 426 requests. In the last 6 months, the police are making 170 requests per month to access the database.
After this meeting, we received a reply from Transport for London about congestion charge cameras. It said the cameras are not turned off at the weekend because it would be too expensive for someone to go around each camera and flick a switch. So even when the congestion charge is not in force, the cameras are still monitoring traffic. So what is the reason for the surveillance systems that I have seen spreading across Britain? Tony Blair argues that the events of 9/11 have changed the rules of the game forever. That the war on terror is unlike anything leaders of the past have had to deal with, and that new measures are required to fight a new enemy. This justification has been especially effective in the United States. Five years on from 9/11, I decided to return to America to look at what surveillance technologies are being used there, and which ones are coming to the UK. The amazing thing about the American response to the 9/11 was the astonishing staunchness of the New Yorkers particularly, which is where I was. Everyone seeming to know what to do without being told. And then, of course, much later on, and to my mind it was 10 days, 2 weeks, the shock of what had happened, the shock of this first attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor, began to sink in. And I think from that moment on, you see the America that we see today. It was decided then to assert American authority, to make sure that the 21st century was going to belong to America. In the months after 9/11, when the world was still in shock, significant pieces of anti-terror legislation were passed quickly. They included the Patriot Act, which has dramatically increased the state's powers of mass surveillance,